I was this kid who was living my own thing in my own world in my own life, and I had a lot of friends growing up. I was a social butterfly for the most part of my life. And somewhere in my early 20s, I went kind of inside too much, and I decided to heal a bunch of stuff. Because my work as an artist was, I felt too obsessed with certain topics and too kind of not what I wanted of it. It's kind of that moment there that everybody has, the throwing everything out, and starting over, but not really. Then you like the stuff, and then you. But looking at it now, and I didn't throw everything out. I did the right thing. I went and solved that for myself. I think I did for the best for myself there, yeah, for sure. I didn't know who I wanted to be in all of this. I decided that I was going to try to create myself the best possible given the social circumstances and everything that was happening. And life became kind of a fun way to live. I fell in love with life when I was a teenager, in the midst of the worst kind of trauma possible, I think, for anyone. I was a kid and I was happy, and I solved it for myself, the whole trauma issue. It was a huge social problem, and it was a huge family issue. All of a sudden, kind of, it propelled me into happiness instead of the opposite. And art and design, they're the love of my life. Who I am is my spiritual journey here. It's something I've learned very soon in life. That's who I am. Everything else, that's not me. It's really not me. That's not mine. It's really not mine. That's not me. It's really not me. And I learned very soon that the issue here, like this series I've been doing, the last apocalypse, is something that graphism, illustration, digital illustration is where I was born in art. And pen, pencil, paper, watercolors, pointillism. Actually, was my first mastered style. I was there when hip hop was born, and I was also there when minimalism was this gigantic spiritual boom in myself. And I think the greater lesson for me is where I am, is really what lesson there is for who I am. Anti-fascism and psychedelia were the greater life choices when I was a teenager, and I used to go to anti-fa rallies, and I was very brave about my anti-fascism very young, 13, 14 years old. And when it started to blossom in me, the hugeness, the sanity of being alive, having the common sense to exist and coexist, also in kindness for myself and everybody else, it really dawned on me that that issue of evil here was this constant weariness for everybody, and it forced me that enclosure inside of myself in a dream world of me, and I just blocked it off. I blocked from the world, and in a traumatic incident that happened for a while, uh, the coming out of it, the being completely honest about it, just I was so traumatized, that my life became this goal to get out, something to achieve, and a life to achieve. And when I did, and I finally got there, I was too much in a shock to even see it, and I'm still coming to terms with it right now. I studied graphic design, and I fell in love with design and everything about it. I became a stylist, someone that designs styles and everybody else's dream factory. The huge trauma got me to look at my life and my future in a way that I don't think I ever met anyone who shared that idea with me. Never. I'm not even sure I talked to someone about it. It's fashion, hip hop, music, and electronica, having my own thing in it, my own little tag there, my signature in all those styles and all those genres. It's something that I cherish the most about myself. It's for a reason, right? Being designed the greater love of my life, trauma forced me to look at that path of myself as this metamorphosis and this wild dream person, into a life journey of personal magnitude, something I can achieve with low effort or no effort, something that just is natural in me. And I don't know, becoming like top of the world kind of stuff. I wasn't expecting that, but yeah, uh, I'm still trying to understand, how to feel gratitude because it's too big sometimes. What happened to me? Had this huge epiphany, and I realized I have the merit to love myself, and if I would accept to live only in the mediocrity of what could I become, and I I couldn't reach levels of understanding that negligence is maybe the problem here, to accept and solve for ourselves and move on with our lives. I am first a person, then a good person, and then human. And if that's the merit to exist here, that's where I want to be, above mediocrity. And consumerism is really just an excuse to either contribute to yourself and others, or to just um, shove it inside of yourself and die with it. And that idea of Boto, the dance of transmutation, and transmutation as a livelihood, is not something I want for myself. For example, I don't want to just keep pulling things in and transmuting them out. I needed to find a solution for that, and for myself. When I noticed the major issues in social innovation, for example, field I work in, it's always negligence, always the issue. And it's not just the issue of social negligence or society. No, it's negligence with ourselves and others. That's what it is. Yeah. Like I said, AI is a hyperrealism tool. It's really, it doesn't exist without the creative, professional human being, and it's to a level hyperrealism in art. I started wondering, if people haven't moved past moving picture or photography as something that exists, and the cultural shock of AI has been so huge that it culminated into this transcendence, and we are uh, living embodied freedom, well, something is there, right? And that issue of meritos existence, for God to be proud of us, the artists, the creative professionals, and the culture shock of um, the creative cultural agents here, the heritage seekers and finders and keepers and helpers of God. Well, there's something there, right? The cacophony represents, in a way, this freedom and loneliness, of the loud, cute noise of oppression being there, silence in the back of our minds, and really present all the time right in our faces. And I think, in a way, music has kept people sane. The cacophony needs and needed to be combated, with louder, beautiful noise, and kind of the symphonic orchestra of ding-a-ling, ding, 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 and music jams. And that was since I was, I don't know, 3 years old. That's my life, music jams and great nights of uh, knowing music. The social contribution that really is when we actually achieve our best and we do our best. And I look at my friends, some of them gave so much, giving actually so little, and some of them gave so much, giving actually so much. But that was beyond the point, is that the actual contribution is the thing that matters. And so, looking at people who actually contribute with their own happiness and everybody else's happiness, it's it's something that got me wondering. I met this person, a teacher, and of urbanism, and it became this epitome of a moment for me. It was my top moment in my life so far. The If I'm not making God proud of me, I'm not achieving anything here, and why wouldn't I? It's that was the thing for me, and that person is a great teacher. And him, his wife, his kids, they live a life they're proud of, and they're proud of who they are, and that's it's just the contribution of teaching. It's when you're a good teacher, it makes sense. And I started gathering functions instead of just achieving self. I started polyvalences, achieving more, being more. And the being in English is very interesting. Like in Portuguese, ser estar, or in Spanish, yo soy, yo estoy. It's that transience of being, and sometimes I can be here, and sometimes I can be this, and sometimes I can be there, and sometimes I can be that. And who I really am doesn't change. I'm a designer. I'm an artist. Um, just adds to it. Right? So I was looking at all those contributions of everybody that I could look at, my friends, and every individual that actually contributed something here. I I had this epiphany moment. I have to do things that are different. I don't want to. The principle of the enemy in art is not convincing to me. It's to look at everything else as an enemy is not something that opposition to good is not something that gives me any motivation to go to work tomorrow. You get it? I rather right. I rather dwell in beauty. I came to work in this field fashion here when I moved to the interior, and I live in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a mountain range, close to the river, in an old fisherman town. About, I don't know, I think residents are about 40 people, maybe not as much. And I was thinking that Joe Armani dressed the entirety of corporate America with his friends. You get it. And me and my friends did something else. And I don't, I don't know how to explain how proud I am of those individuals, and including my friends, and myself. The social contribution is, in this perspective of the middle of nowhere, that's everything. Who I am in anti-fascism, for me, is the transformation happening now. I became anti-fascism is really not necessary anymore, in the same ways or different. It's just most of it's unnecessary. We deserve, to be happy, good people here, humans. I have a hard time believing humanity is to blame for anything here. It's not that. It's not humanity. It's just putting ourselves in a perspective of the wrong type of idea of equality, for example, because I'm not someone that can be a barber. You get it? I can cut hair, okay? And that's offensive to barbers for a reason, is that I'm not a barber. So I really don't like that, to offend people's personal aesthetics, for example, with my lack of know-how. So it's kind of the same with design and looking at beautiful things, beautiful. This calmness about myself is something that I found living here in the mountain range of the Saddle River, and just right next to the river. It's like my own personal retreat and resort. Is the It's a resourceful place of to retreat, and being, quite honestly, naked in a complete paradise river place, beach of sorts with sound and my dogs and a towel and a joint and just being there, alive. I and I come home and I build an app, and I think it's a little tiny app. It's just so much of a major contribution of my whole day that this calmness. I ask God for this, this for this moment. My most valid lesson to give is that where you are is really where you need it. And trauma birthed me an incredible artist, and I'm so thankful in that perspective of my life that I'm alive, and I think you can find gratitude in what's unspoken, in the um, silence that you exist and you are there inside of yourself and you're contemplating. Humans are, in essence, contemplators. We help God by watching, observing, and sometimes God does like that. Little human do something, and the little human goes and helps God do things. Just contemplating the next step, the next phase. We are, in essence, observers, and um, I'm a Buddhist and I'm a yogi, and I, in my life here, I look at my baby self picture. I have a cute picture of me when I was a baby, and I do everything for that girl, to give her a life she's proud of, and I'm proud of myself, so, and I know God's proud of me and everything I've achieved. I think there's so many people to thank that all those mentioned, just names that are mentioned for a reason. Um, I'm proud of belonging, I'm proud to belong. It's something, belonging is maybe the greater issue. I never expected myself to be so proud of being an anti-Nazi, by the way, because anti-Nazism is a category in society of the brave individuals, and anti-fascism who can actually look at that stuff and question their place in the world. Put a question mark in existence and understand why certain types of things exist. For example, that amount of evil. And anti-Nazi is trippy, by the way, is the constant acceptance that all in life is consumerism. You put in, you put out, and you what you consume, the art you see, the stuff you listen to, what you we live in a consumist society for a reason, and that consumism needs to be a quality one. We need to protect ourselves. We need to engage in a healthy way to consume here. And anti-Nazism is that exploration and science of uh, the philosophy of anti-evil, and being anti-evil is a thing that people need to question. Those people exist, the anti-evil humans, because there's the only way, to be a human full being, growing to the level of merit that you can actually live that life of an anti-Nazi, and then living up to it is meeting some of the best anti-Nazis in the world. I actually tell myself I wouldn't do that, I wouldn't, that I wouldn't do. And I'm very brave, I stood on top of cliffs, and I went to the worst type of situation, from heroin houses of prostitution to save people to running away, and I don't know, situations of confrontation with the extreme evil, real terrorism, like facing the world's largest terrorist right in front of me for a while. That was a scary thing there. Kind of why also, and I grew beyond all of that, knowing it's just an insane individual. That's all it is, and the danger of it is actually close to nothing to what it could be. And I consider myself, doing that for that baby. That was reckless, and it was when meeting that person, that I realized, right, he's not a person even, just an insane individual. I'm not doing for her. I'm doing for that, the obsessive thing of getting to the other side and being 100% happy, living a good life, only. And that, for me, it's kind of obsessive because it is that issue of consumerism and culture, and knowing Nazism in its face. It's a confrontation with consumerism all the time. It's what you're allowing in yourself, in your life, how you're building your life, how you're creating yourself to be, and it's difficult to accept that all this art comes from that transmutation. Also, it wouldn't be me if it wasn't. Uh, for all of that also, not just the good stuff. And I wouldn't be myself, you know. I'm coming out of that huge shock and trauma and a life to unfold. Oh my god, that was amazing. There's this confrontation in society about we the tortured artists. I'm not a tortured artist. I wasn't. My identity is not a tortured individual. I'm not a victim. You know, that's scary. That people contemplate my life. You know, my existence. I'm anti-fascist. A person of war. A person of struggle, of suffering, of torture, of unsalvageability. That's scary. That type of thought. And I think much more than Nazism or terrorism, there is negligence, social negligence, and much more than all of that. Right now, maybe in the 30s, 40s, 50s, you know, the Nazism was and terrorism was kind of a war, you know, and the fears of war. But now, not really. It's social negligence. It's really obvious for me that people kind of gave up on supporting and helping. It's kind of why I respect so much military. I love the martial arts. I'm a Zen Buddhist, so you know, Mayana has this aspect of contemplating the art of peace as well as the art of war, you know, the art of love. War can only be fought with true love, you know, and extreme love for life and everything human here. I think most people would be very embarrassed to know that maybe a lot of us in anti-fascism are not as proud. You know? It's a scary feeling that if you depend on the police and on anti-fascism or creatives in our creatives, you know, and who we are, and my friends, and myself, if you depend on me and you have zero contribution of your merit, just sit there demanding, you know, to consume, to put inside of yourself. That was a confrontation for me. I decided something else. I'm going to be happy. I don't want to look at any of that. I'm done. During my childhood years, I lived a while in China, and it changed me in a way that I don't appreciate, you know, enough that people here in the so-called West, right, are so big in managing what that was, the evil thing for us for all these decades. In my 30 something years here, you know, it's I depend on all of them. Here in Portugal, there's that thing of the conquered freedoms, that constant conversation that we need to accept those conquered freedoms and live up to them. Nowadays, a bit different. My anti-fascism, for example, is deism I put out in the world is that freedom is not an item to give and take. So, living in Asia was this transformation that I constantly need. I don't know. It smells of home, you know, China, and my feet on this earth that is God, you know, Mother Earth is just a thing about it. She saved me. She put me in an incredible future in life. I have, you know, gratitude. I have zero moments to just contemplate that saving all of that time. To do that for that child self, you know, the thing of becoming myself, to live an incredible, beautiful achievement of a life, to make myself proud of myself, to be the type of person that God is proud of, you know, blindfolded. You know. That's my achievement here. It's my most proud achievement here. That's the thing about myself I'm grateful the most is that God can trust me blindfolded. And that that was my goal initially in anti-fascism, to have that merit to exist here. Either way, I will always, you know, because that's just how it is. Mm. I did that for that baby self of my own, you know, that she really deserves that because she was one of those kids, you know, berry hunting in the woods was my thing when I was a baby. So she had great dreams, that kid. I achieved most of them so far. I'm going for the rest of them. That's my gift to her. I also live my life in a love declaration for the love of my life. family, my brothers and sisters that are spread out in this world, and I really love them so much. I love my being self family person that I am. Thank you so much for this.